Back here at our Bison Video Blog studios, up to number 2 on our countdown of the newcomers to watch in 2017. A lot of notoriety around this guy, Jeffrey, and we're going back up front. It may not be the sexy position to talk about, but it is an important spot for North Dakota State. A redshirt freshman who may be the starting left tackle for the Bison against Mississippi Valley State, and that's from Becker, Minnesota, and Dillon Radunz, who impressed the heck out of me this past spring. He was really good.
Maybe. It's interesting because when you say maybe,
Yeah.
that means he would take over a spot already
Occupied by a starter.
Yeah, Colin Connor. So that would mean they'd move Colin Connor probably inside. That tells you something about this guy. If he can supplant a starter and a pretty good one at that, and Colin Connor started as a sophomore last year. Colin's been in the program now 4 years.
Yep.
This guy was a pretty big recruit. Remember the Minnesota,
Missouri. Remember the day before signing day.
Were they going to go after him?
Yeah.
Were they not? Bison lost. They already lost one guy to Missouri a few years ago. When
Connor McGovern, way back when, you're thinking, right?
And that was the same deal. It was like 1 week left, and boom, there he goes. They were able to hold on to this guy anyway. I like his work ethic. We've talked to him before. I like the way seems like to be a mature guy. I like he knows his spot in the lineup, what he has to do. And again, look at him. We talked about Volson. This guy can move too.
6'6", 288, Jeff, going into spring. We have to assume he's going to be 300 pounds after a summer with Kramer. His first summer with Kramer before fall camp begins. A lot of notoriety on this kid. He was an all-state player in the state of Minnesota. As we mentioned, Missouri offered him the day before signing day, 2016. We had him on our signing day radio show. He wanted to be a Bison. He comes from an outstanding football program in Becker. Everything I saw or heard about this guy last year on the scout team, the coaches fawned over him, and he is already on the depth chart, which already makes me, and I think it kind of screamed out to you to say, okay, coaches are thinking pretty high of him. He's going to be in the rotation. He is going to get reps come September.
The fact we've talked about so many offensive linemen in our summer series now, does that lead you to believe that maybe the line won't suffer as big of a letdown as some people might think after losing 3 starters?
I think they're going to see what we did in 2014 where they had line changes of guys, that 7 or 8 different guys play, and then maybe by November, Connor Riley has his guys of the 5 he wants to play come the late season.
I'll never forget, like in 2008, 2009, you're going through the depth chart, and there's like maybe 4 or 5 guys, and they play the whole year. That has changed in the last 2, 3, 4 years when they've done better job recruiting, and thus they got better depth. And this guy can add, and that pushes everybody too, right? I mean, when you have more guys pushing everybody, it's not like you can mail it in at right guard because there's nobody behind you.
I look at it, Jeff, on the depth chart going into the spring, there's only 3 seniors, Messner, Zemer, and Cooner. This is an extremely young offensive line that does have some experience. You mentioned Colin Connor out there, but at the other spots, Tanner Volson started a couple games last year. He's just a junior. This is a really green offensive line that has a ton of talent. I think there's no argument on that. But in terms of playing experience, Zemer's played a little bit, but there's not much there.
You can't always be veteran on one particular position, right? Eventually, you're going to lose some of these guys to graduation.
Having Cooner there is a big deal, I think. Having Cooner at guard,
he's going to have to be the leader.
He started all 4 years, and he's played all over the line, I think is a monster deal, especially if Dillon Radunz gets into the lineup.
And don't forget, you have an experienced offensive line coach, too. It's not like this guy's coming in and hasn't done a lot of stuff. So, I mean, Connor Riley has taken some guys and molded them, and he's been around. He knows the West Coast system. He knows what he's looking for. So I just think that, if these guys have the ability and you have the schedule like we talked about with Robert Morris and Mississippi Valley, you have the chance to really assert yourself, I think, early.
And their conference opener is Missouri State. And I'm going to throw some shade on Missouri State. They're not exactly world beaters. They're getting better, but it's not like you're opening with South Dakota State or Northern Iowa that your conference opener, and it's at home, it's in Fargo, that it's a chance. Then you get a bye, get a bye. Robert Morris, Mo State. It's a chance then to figure out what we're going to do. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's the starting left tackle on opening day.
I don't think that's big of a limb.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think he's that good. I do. Just from talking to a couple of the coaches and doing all the aura around this guy. I mean, his size and everything.
You haven't been watching tape, haven't you? You've been watching offensive line tape again. Number 2 on our list is Dillon Radunz on our newcomers to watch for 2017.